rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events, this is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick, and it is Happy Inauguration Day. That's right. It's also Martin Luther King Day, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, but that's okay. It all comes together, I promise you. Happy Inauguration Day. Today is a glorious day for America and Americans. And yes, 3 Chevy, that is a nice background. It is the 47 for President Trump, number 47, 45, and 47, both. That is just fantastic. It was awesome. I had the inauguration up most of the day. I didn't watch everything, but I saw most of it. And I got to tell you, it was fantastic. Trump's speech when he took over, all I could hear, because Mrs. Whiskey was watching it not with me, but in the other room. And all I could hear from her was basically, wow, Trump's not pulling any punches. Oh, yeah. But anyway, it is just fantastic. Welcome. It is the golden age of America. They keep talking about is today starts the golden age of America. I got to tell you, it's a long time coming. It was a long 4 years for us to get to this point, but we got here, and thank the Lord. Biden, Harris, Fauci, Garland, you could just go down the entire list of everybody, and yeah, it's like, get out of here. Get out of here. Give him a big old boot in the behind. Boom. There you go. You're on your way. Yes, that is right. We are now. The adults are back in charge. The Christian adults are back in charge. And yes, I got a couple things about what Biden did, like shortly. I'm talking like mere minutes before he left office. No explanation to the American people, of course, no explanation at all. But first, I got to show you guys this. And I got to be honest with you. Oh, sorry, wrong thing. Here we go. So I got to show you guys this. This is what I'm wearing right now. This is what I'm wearing right now. This was a gift from my son. Here you can see. Get it in closer. There it is right there. He gave it to me when he gave me the coin, but I held it back from you guys because I wanted to wear it on Inauguration Day. There it is. Daddy's home. Donald Trump in front of the White House. So, yeah. So there we go. Daddy's home, and I'm wearing it for tonight's show. Yeah, that's right. Daddy is home. And oh, by the way, because of the Paris Accords, the Paris Accords being left, there you go. Oh, that was 3 Chevy's confirmation. This is the American Navy leaving the Paris Peace Accords. So, yeah, there you go. Anyway, oh, so there you go. That's what you got. Can I say there you go any further? Anyway, I'm just giddy with excitement. I really am. I'm just totally giddy with everything that's been going on. It has been a fantastic time. Again, I got to tell you, Trump's speech in the rotunda, the Capitol rotunda, was very serious, very scripted, very on point, and outlined every single thing that he is planning on doing from day one all the way through. And I'm glad that he called out definitely a couple of the leftist agendas like DEI, gone, and the fact that there are only 2 genders, male and female, And yeah, so there we go. Oh, Buddy was correcting me. I guess I must have said something wrong. But anyway, he says Paris Climate Accords. So anyway, I must have said like Paris Peace Accords, which isn't true. It's Paris Climate Accords. Thank you, Buddy, for keeping me honest. But anyway, so yeah, so he did a really good job. I appreciated that speech. Now the second one that he did in the I think it was in the Capitol Hill building, it wasn't in the rotunda, it was elsewhere. But that one he did completely off the cuff, and yeah, it just anyway, he kind of rambled, and that was, showman Trump. Oh, it was at the visitor center, I think, in the Emancipation Room. But anyway, the point is that was, off the cuff Trump, showman Trump. He was trying to play to the audience, and he kind of rambled a little bit too long for my taste. But again, I mean, I compare him to, again, a lot of great orators, and that is not what he is. He is not a great orator, in my opinion, but that's not why I like him as president. That's just one aspect of being the president. And he does well when he's on teleprompter and stays on point and that kind of stuff. But when he goes off on his rambling things, there you go. So anyway, let's see. So 3 Chevy says Rick has stones, but Trump has balls tonight. Yeah, Trump has had a lot of balls. I mean, the man's been shot at, and according to Buddy Weiser, he is still signing executive orders. So that's cool. Okay, let's go ahead and get this stuff. In honor of today being Inauguration Day, we are going to have AI Trump do the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one like me, and place your hand over your heart and follow along with President 47 Donald J. Trump in our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag, that wonderful flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And, of course, that was a submission by none other than 3 Chevy. So, if you would like to hear your rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself saying the pledge, reciting the pledge in your style, and then take that either audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, send it on to me. Send it into fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. And I will get you into the rotation. I would love to get some new ones. Not that I dislike the ones that I have. It's just I like variety. So send them in. Send them in. Come on. Don't be shy. All you have to do is recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Most of you have recited it for years in elementary school. And if not, well, you can figure it out for sure. But anyway, send it on in, because I would love to get you into the rotation. It would be fantastic for me to have, just gobs of them. So go ahead and do so. All right, tonight's headline sponsor, of course, is gotta get there. Theflagshirt.com. Theflagshirt.com is where it is. And they have an end of January sale going on right now. This is where I get most of my patriotic shirts that you see me wear on this program. In fact, actually, that's all of them, but so far. But I don't always wear them. Like tonight, I'm wearing the Daddy's Home shirt. But you can go and check them out at theflagshirt.com. They're running a 50% off of select patriotic gear. You can go and shop now at theflagshirt.com. And as always, you can get you can get the wonderful free shipping by ordering $75 or more on theflagshirt.com on their website. But I know some people don't want to order $75 worth of product. And I also know that, sometimes in this economy, because we don't have Trump-isms or Trump policies in just quite yet. So people's money is still tight. So I'm going to help you out. And how I do that is if you go over to flagshirt.americanperspective.online, that's flagshirt.americanperspective.online, you will get a coupon code that you can copy and paste into the promo box at checkout at theflagshirt.com and get $5 off your order on American Perspective. Go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online to get yourself that coupon code. Go over to the checkout page on theflagshirt.com. Find the promo box, paste that code in there, and you'll get $5 off your order on American Perspective. Go to theflagshirt.com and get yourself patriotized. All right. So, wonderful day, but we do have to hit a couple of things that Biden and have happened with the Biden thing. Apparently, Trump is now answering questions as he's signing executive orders. So that's good. That's good. But anyway, so I gotta kind of catch up a little bit because, as you know, I was off last week. Thanks to all of you, allowing me to go ahead and do that. But apparently now that Joe has lost his, essentially all of his political capital, and I'm not talking about his political capital in terms of money. I'm talking about his political capital in terms of his ability to do things for other people. You know, that whole selling of influence thing. Well, anyway, apparently now people are starting to get a little bit more, shall we say, forthcoming. By forthcoming, I mean they're a little more honest about things that are going on. Well, anyway, it appears that apparently the Pelosi's and the Bidens are having a bit of a feud, which doesn't really surprise me any, considering Nancy Pelosi essentially pushed Joe out of the wheelchair that Joe was in to get him out of the race. And yeah, so there we go. But the Biden-Pelosi family feud goes next level as Nancy's daughter pops off with Lady McBiden. Now, you got to wonder what she meant by that, but I can hazard a guess. So here's the comment that Alexandra Pelosi, the former speaker's daughter, told someone, I don't know, I'm assuming it was an interview, on Saturday. It said, if Lady McBiden, if I was Lady McBiden, I'd put on my big girl pants, play the long game, and think about my husband's legacy. There aren't too many people left in America who have something nice to say about Joe Biden, and Nancy Pelosi is one of them. So the younger Pelosi apparently also said that she was only speaking for herself. But yeah, I don't know what she was referring to. I don't think very many other people, it was a Politico article. But I don't think many other people were thinking about, this, but yeah, apparently the Democrat facade is starting to crack and break down, in the Democrat camp. They're starting to wonder, I think, where in the hell they are going to go for the next 4 years to try and get out of the way of the Trump train that is headed down the track, and they're in the tunnel. They're inside the tunnel, and they can't quite figure out how to get out of the way. All of that, of course, follows along with what was fully expected by anybody paying attention. So before Biden left office, his final acts were, of course, to pardon a bunch of people and also commute the sentences on some people, too. Apparently, he just kind of like opened up and released some Guantanamo Bay prisoners, and then he also went and commuted the sentences on a few other prisoners and just opens up the prison gates and says, here you go. But he also preemptively pardoned certain people. For an example, in here you can see it in the New York Post. He pardoned Fauci, Miley, and the January 6th committee staffers in the final hours of his presidency. Now, you got to ask yourself a question, okay? And I'm going to ask this question because let me just pose this to you. If there was an innocent person among those, like especially dealing with Fauci, which, by the way, the left on X in particular has been, posting pictures of Fauci saying that he saved all these people. And I've been responding back to them saying, you're a moron. It was actually him who cost all those lives because he funded the gain of function research in Wuhan to create the Wuhan flu. But anyway, it's essentially, he's sitting there, I don't understand. If they're innocent, if they're so innocent, why would he feel the need to pardon them? Preemptively pardon them. Now, keep in mind, you can't pardon somebody for crimes that you may commit in the future. So this obviously is a preemptive pardon prior to any kind of prosecution, which is legal under the Constitution, and the courts have upheld that over time. But the thing about it is that these people obviously, by getting this pardon, have done something wrong. Because in order to get a pardon, you must have done a crime. So he obviously is setting this up. Now, there are some people, I'm going to tell you, there are some people who are suggesting that this is actually unconstitutional. So we'll kind of have to see when this is going to be kind of worked out. Because, again, the courts have upheld a long series of lists in terms of, a long series of court cases in terms of pardons and especially preemptive pardons. And they have essentially said that the power is a very broad power. So a lot of people think that you almost need to be, that you should, by the way, be charged with a crime before you gain a presidential pardon. But the challenge, of course, is that it has been taken into courts, and the courts have pretty much said, yeah, you can be pardoned prior to, as long as you know that you committed a crime, you can be pardoned at any time in the process. It can be when you're charged, it can be before you're charged, it can be before sentencing, it can be after sentencing. So, so all of this, but still the point is, and this is the key point, is that you need to have committed a crime, whether or not anybody else knows that you committed the crime. You need to have committed a crime in order to be pardoned, or at least suspected of committing a crime in order to be pardoned. Well, that is certainly the case with these people. Mark Milley or Miley, however you freaking pronounce his name, it doesn't matter anyway. He got booted just like hours after it. So Bonnie asks the questions. Fraudchi, meaning Fauci, has not been charged yet, so can he be charged now? Technically, no, he can't be charged. But What does happen, though, is that now, because he's received his pardon, just like with freaking Hunter Biden, okay, just like Hunter Biden, he is now at a point where he can't use the Fifth Amendment anymore because he is pardoned. Now, Buddy, of course, is pointing out that there is a possibility that these pardons are unconstitutional, just like a general warrant versus a specific warrant. I would hazard a guess that maybe these pardons might get challenged in court. I don't know. It would be interesting to go up to the Supreme Court for it. But as I've pointed out, the Supreme Court, at least historically, has been very offhanded, standoffish when it comes to trying to limit this particular power of the presidency. And they basically have ruled in the past that the president, meaning he has a wide range of things that he can do. But as my smart and fantastic Rumble listeners over there have all been pointing at, and also a couple other people have been pointing out that those are only for federal crimes. If Fauci and the rest have done crimes that could be considered a state crime, then they can be charged under state statutes and state crimes. So maybe that's an angle to take. But anyway, we'll just have to see. Chances are, I'm going to be honest with you, probably what's going to end up happening is these people are just going to be let go. Kind of like what Trump was talking about in the beginning, back in 2016, when he said that he was going to lock up Hillary Clinton and then just sort of forgot, I guess, or ignored it. I don't think it's going to be politically expedient to go back and go after these people. But again, we'll just kind of have to see. But Biden, of course, followed through with I'm sure what was part of the plan was to go ahead and get him to pardon those people. Now, Jim Acosta on X kind of made a comment, or he was talking to Anthony Fauci, and Fauci apparently told him that he was grateful. Let me see if I can get this blown up a little bit. Grateful for the pardon he received from President Biden, noting that he had just received word from his attorney, meaning Fauci's attorney, that the pardon had gone through. Fauci said, "It feels good and I'm grateful for the president for doing it. However, he also points out, I have done nothing wrong, certainly nothing criminal, no grounds at all." Now, here's the funny thing about these. Joe Biden can issue the pardon. Okay. Joe Biden can issue the pardon, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the individual doesn't or has to accept the pardon. So if Fauci decides and says, hey, you know what? I'm innocent. I'm not going to accept that pardon. All right. Then that negates the pardon. So obviously, and keep in mind, this isn't like the Fifth Amendment here, folks. The Fifth Amendment, you can take the Fifth Amendment as a protection for yourself, regardless of whether you are guilty or not guilty. It is not a presumption of innocence or guilt to claim protections under the Fifth Amendment. Accepting a pardon, though, is viewed as, yeah, I did something, and you guys ain't going to get me for it now because of this. So if these people actually accept these pardons, which they probably will because they're all freaking morons anyway, we know that they did something. What they did, we don't know. I mean, other than, of course, Fauci, we know the fact that he funded the gain of function research and but anyway. Oh, and I guess, Alan Dershowitz, according to 3 Chevy, Alan Dershowitz is saying, if you are pardoned, no matter whether you accept it or not. So I don't know. I don't know. Well, I mean, again, there's a lot that we're sort of in legal questionable waters at this point. And Bonnie points out Rand Paul is after Fauci. So there we go. So anyway. All right. Well, in conjunction with this, he also pardoned very quickly in his final minutes of office, according to CNBC here, you can see on the screen, his entire family. Well, most of them anyway. I don't know if he did everybody, but he did most of them. Most of the ones in particular who were part of the Biden family, pay influence peddling scheme, I should say. So he issued preemptive pardons for several family members, citing concerns that they will be targeted by, guess what, a baseless and politically motivated investigations. You mean kind of like the one that went after Donald Trump? Yeah, that Donald Trump was going on. Now, the White House announced these pardons just minutes before the president-elect Donald Trump entered the Capitol Rotunda to be sworn in as the next commander-in-chief. Now, talk about that being a freaking I'm going to do this and slink away in the middle of the night action. Yeah, so apparently he pardoned James Biden, his brother, James's wife, Sarah Jones Biden, his younger sister, Valerie, her husband, John Owens, and his other brother, Francis Biden. So he apparently did like the top level. So pretty much all of them that were in on the scheme for sure. But anyway, so there you go. That's, he also apparently pardoned Gerald Landergan, who is the former chairman of the Kentucky Democrat Party and former South Carolina Councilman Ernest Cromery. The departing president also commuted the life sentence of Leonard Peltier, who was convicted of killing 2 FBI agents in 1975. So, yeah. So again, this is just, this was just, kind of, I guess, the icing on the cake, realistically. Yeah. So here in the press release, Biden said, "My family has been subjected to unrelenting attacks and threats." Oh, you think? What about the Trumps? Moron. Anyway, he goes, motivated solely by a desire to hurt me. Oh, you mean exactly like the Merrick Garland DOJ was going after Donald Trump for all of it? And then he continues on, the worst kind of partisan politics. The kind that you've been doing to Donald Trump for the last 4 years. Yeah, okay. And then he goes, unfortunately, I have no reason to believe these attacks will end. I believe in the rule of law. No, you don't. Because if you did, you would have allowed your son to stand up to the rule of law. You also would have had him stand trial for his FARA violations, which he hadn't been charged with yet. Yeah. So anyway, and he continues on by saying, I am optimistic that the strength of our legal institutions will ultimately prevail over politics. Yeah. All right. And the thing continues to basically explain why he's doing it, but we all know why he's doing it. He's doing it because he doesn't want it to come back to him. And more importantly, go back to Barack Obama, who was the commander-in-chief at the time when most of these, because again, this goes all the way back to like 2014. That's when like Fauci's pardon started January 1, 2014, which is right before the gain of function research was actually funded over in Wuhan. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, come on. If there's any sane person out there who does not look at this and look at these pardons and basically says, well, that just pretty much proves all of the corruption and all of the supposed conspiracy theories that have been played out over the course of the last 4 or 5 years, or more of all of this. Yeah. So, yep. All right. So let's move on from some of this other crap. Because frankly, I'm actually like, I don't know. I have this whole folder on my phone of Joe Biden memes that I use to post on social media. In fact, there's so many in there that I've like forgotten some of them even exist until I'm scrolling through trying to find something to put in. But I'm debating on how long I need to hang on to those before I go and like throw them out or delete them all or remove them from my phone. Now I have a folder that is also for like all kinds of Democrat stuff, which has things like, I don't know, the label censured across Adam Schiff's face, because he's going to be around for a while. So I use that one every single time I see an Adam Schiff post, Shifty Schiff. But things like, you know, the Tim Walz ones, yeah, they're probably going to go. I don't know. I'm still debating. If you guys think that you have an idea, I mean, I don't know. Should I hang on to them or should I not? Well, it's like, we're kind of in that gray area right now. So, yeah. Anyway. Okay, so let's move on from this. Clean slate now. Let's get into Donald Trump. Now, of course, Donald Trump's inauguration occurred. He did, you know, his speech, like I said, was phenomenal. It was just fantastic. And, yeah. So, Unfortunately, there was one moment during his swearing-in ceremony where, let's just say, the left kind of took it on and is attempting to make it into a much bigger deal than what it is. Here, and this is just one, CBS actually carried it as well, but this is just one. Trump's hand wasn't on the Bible during the oath of office. What does that mean? Well, it means nothing. You leftist idiots. It means literally nothing. So here's the picture that was that they put out. Here, let me see if I'm going to blow it up for you here. So here's the photo. Now, what they don't tell you, and what they don't actually, you know, mention, is the fact that if you watched it live, all right, if you watched it live, he essentially stood up. They were waiting for J.D. Vance to get his family because he had just taken his oath. And they were waiting for J.D. Vance to get his children wrangled and, you know, that kind of stuff. This was a smallish space. It was kind of difficult for Melania Trump to actually get to Donald Trump. And, of course, John Roberts started almost the second that they announced him. I mean, Donald Trump got up, stood up there, and next thing you know, Roberts starts reading it. Okay. And so Melania hadn't even had the opportunity. It was several words in before Melania got to him to be able to put his hand on the Bible. And I think in reverence to the solemnness of the occasion, if that's even a word, Donald Trump did not want to move to place his hand on the Bible. But here's the thing. And some of the left have been trying to make this like this huge deal. And they were like, never in 100 years, you know, has a president not put his hand on the Bible. Well, wait a minute. I seem to recall that there was other books utilized not just the Bible, but other books. Anyway, in past, I won't mention what. But even so, okay, and this is the key. All right. I took my oath of enlistment, which follows along the general consensus of the oath of office for most of these state leaders. And in fact, the VP's oath of office is almost word for word the oath of enlistment. In terms of, the very first part of the oath of enlistment. Now, toward the end, where it talks about following the orders of the president and following the orders of the officers appointed over to me, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. You'll also remember, too, that when Donald Trump was sworn in the first time back in 2017, he did not put his hand on the Bible because, whether you know it or not, Donald Trump actually is a bit cognizant of germs and is, shall we say, careful with what he touches. Okay. For a long time, Donald Trump had a hard time shaking people's hands. And so obviously he's gotten over that over time. But anyway, so, he's standing there and he's got his hand up and he's doing the oath. Also, too, keep in mind that the Constitution doesn't stipulate that he needs to place his hand on the Bible. In fact, back in the day, back when the founders first started this whole thing, they actually removed religious tests that were initially started. There was a period of time where they actually removed the religious tests that had originally started to be required for going into office because of the simple fact that not everybody was a follower of the same religious beliefs. And so, having the Bible or not having the Bible doesn't really matter. It has been a tradition for many because they feel that way, but also too, when you take like an oath of enlistment, for an example, or an officer's enlistment, and you can check this out. I'm telling you, if you go and type in any search engine, oath of enlistment for the military, you'll get results coming back with pictures of recruits that none of them are touching a Bible. They are raising their right hand and they are swearing the oath without touching a Bible or any other kind of book, by the way. In fact, many of them are in uniform or not in uniform. There's actually, a couple different ways that this can be done. Mine, I wasn't in uniform. I was in the clothes that I got shipped out in to go off to basic training. Okay. So to have a Bible or not have a Bible, it doesn't matter. Also, too, keep in mind that when you swear to tell the truth in court, you're not presented with a Bible to put your hand on. The bailiff stands up, comes up close to the witness box, and then just says, "Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God," and swear or affirm now, because they do that. There's no Bible around. There's no book around. There's no paper around that you put your hand on. So none of this means anything. All this is like a complete cheap shot for the stupid liberal leftists that are out there, to do. Now, Bam, and I think somebody else pointed out, who was the other one that pointed this out? Let's see. Oh, yeah. Mark over on Facebook and Bam over on Rumble both point out that Johnson was sworn in on a missal. Now, a missal, meaning MISSAL, for those that don't know, is usually a book. It's not like a actual book. It's like a pamphlet. Okay. And it's used in the Catholic faith. It's used to essentially tell you about some of the readings and things like that that may be happening on any given that particular Sunday or religious holiday or whatever. And so Johnson was sworn in on the missal because there wasn't a Bible available when he was sworn in. Mark corrects me. It's the order of Mass. And that's through the Catholic faith. That's what they have. So anyway, again, all of it is just bullshit. I mean, sorry, put the earmuffs on the kids for that one. But all of it is just crap. They're just picking. That's all they're doing, is they're just picking and nitpicking and trying to make this a bigger thing than what it actually is. You know, oh, is it really? Is he really? No, he took the oath. Okay. He is the president of the United States. He's 47. And, having the Bible doesn't mean anything. And of course, even one of the freaking X people, the social media people, are like, hey, evangelicals, how does this make you feel? Doesn't make me feel any different. Any different than whenever he took another oath. Because again, like I said, I took my oath of enlistment, which, by the way, the oath of enlistment never expires. But I took my oath of enlistment without a Bible. So there you go. All right. Well, Trump did several, and he is apparently still signing executive orders right now. But one of the things that he did is he kind of got back at those 51 morons in 2020 that intel officials, quote unquote intel officials, who actually lied that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. Yeah, he got back at them. He's going to suspend their security clearances, as they should. I mean, come on, these people, they were trying to influence the election. Okay. They were trying to influence the election. That's literally what they were attempting to do. And they unfortunately successfully did so with it by saying that the Russian laptop, or the Hunter Biden laptop, was Russian disinformation. I've told you on this program, the numbers demonstrate, based off of exit polling and things like that, that if the Hunter Biden laptop was proven to not be Russian disinformation and the electorate had known about it, that would have been enough votes to swing 2020 to Trump's way. Just that all by itself. But yeah, he's going to suspend those, which is cool. It just pretty much means that they can no longer get intelligence briefings and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, he's pretty much, if he suspends them, that means they could potentially get him back. But hopefully he does some sort of an investigation and then, of course, revokes them. Not suspends them, but revokes them. So yeah. Anyway. All right. So I've got a little bit of time left. So let's move on. And because of all the inauguration stuff and everything that was coming in with Trump returning to office and those kinds of things, a few things might have fallen through the cracks. This one in particular, I think, is going to be crucial in the coming days. So we all know about Trump. And saying that he is going to rescind what is called natural born citizenship. Birthright citizenship is the term. Birthright citizenship, which a lot of people claim is part of the 14th Amendment, which, if you recall, the 14th Amendment also included that wonderful Section 3 piece in there. But hey, if you have your copy of the Constitution in front of you, you can check this out with me. So the 14th Amendment, there's 14, starts off in Section 1. It says, all persons born or naturalized in the United States, and this is the key part, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, okay, are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Now, that particular that particular line and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. That is the key. That is the key to this birthright citizenship situation. See, now the Democrats just read that as, hey, if you're born or naturalized in the United States, you're a citizen. Okay, they kind of skip over that subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Now, several interpretations of that subject to the jurisdiction thereof, not necessarily legal ones, because it hasn't really been tried in court specifically, although I have a feeling that it's going to get there before Trump's term is over. But some of the interpretations of that line basically state that you have to be born of parents that are American citizens, at least one of those parents that are American citizens. Because if you are not subject to the jurisdiction thereof, meaning that if you are a citizen of another country, and especially in the cases, and this is the argument that they make for people who are, ambassadors, when they have ambassadors here, and the ambassadors come over and they are serving on American soil, and then they have a kid while they're here, that doesn't mean that kid is an American citizen, because the parents are subject to another jurisdiction. Okay? And so this is where this whole idea of anchor babies and birthright citizenship is all going to get challenged. Well, as you can see on the screen, and I know I'm kind of talking for the audio portion or for the audio listeners, but here, as you can see on the screen, the Fifth Circuit Court is setting up that DACA is unconstitutional, which will also bring into it, more than likely, this idea of birthright citizenship. So what happened here, and this is the Federal Appeals Court that ruled on Friday, that the controversial Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, that's where the DACA comes from, was illegal. Now, unfortunately, they stopped short of allowing a nationwide injunction issued by a federal judge in Texas to go into effect. However, they did reduce the scope and said, hey, the injunction can stay in place in Texas. Okay. So, DACA is essentially, which, by the way, that was the big thing during the Obama era, was the Dreamers. Okay. And that whole thing with it. There's an estimated 580,000 DACA enrollees at this point. DACA enrollees arrived in the United States as very young children when their parents and guardians were illegally emigrated here. In other words, were here as illegal aliens. And they say that they are culturally American and frequently can't speak the language of their home country, have no family or social ties to it. They have been under, and this is the key, under a law, a DHS Secretary, Janet Napolitano, signed a memorandum in 2012 that allowed these dreamers, these DACA beneficiaries, to be able to obtain driver's licenses in states that don't issue them to illegal aliens. Also, they have also qualified for in-state tuition rates and state-funded educational grants and loans in some states, even extending as far as healthcare as well. Now, the average age of the recipients was 21 when the program was established. Now, most of them are in their 30s. Many have completed college, have careers, started families, and so on and so forth. But if DACA were to end under this, okay, it essentially will make them no longer authorized to work in the United States. So, anyway, so again, this all started back in 2012 under Janet Napolitano, and it was never created into an executive order. It never went through the rulemaking process required by the Administrative Procedure Act. It was never enacted into law by Congress. And that pretty much meant that that order would have ceased to be valid once the cabinet secretary changes. In other words, when they leave office, that memo is no longer valid. So now, and this is where the case came from, when Trump came into office, his DHS secretary rescinded the DACA memo on the advice of the Attorney General of the United States at the time, and the Supreme Court held in a 5-4 vote that the Trump administration was required to follow the Administrative Procedure Act to withdraw that memo, but that was never subjected to that act in the first place. So do you kind of see how all of this is just like this big mess? Okay. Anyway, so we're going to have to see. And by the way, this is the second time that this particular case has been heard by the Fifth Circuit. The second time the Fifth Circuit has ruled DACA unconstitutional as well. So this is going to set things up for the idea. This is going to set things up for the idea that birthright citizenship is ended, meaning that you have to be subject to the jurisdiction. And that means basically you have to be the child of a American citizen in order to become an American citizen. Quite an interesting scenario. We're going to be watching this. I guarantee you it will pop up again. It absolutely will. Now, I want to go back really quickly in the final minutes here. I want to go back to Jack Smith's report. Now, the left made a big deal about Jack Smith's report and the release of Jack Smith's report, and Jack Smith's report was going to bury Trump. It was going to do all of this stuff. Well, I skimmed, for the most part, Jack Smith's report, and no, it really didn't bury anybody. I mean, it basically was a bunch of non-proven innuendo that Jack Smith kind of said, well, this is what I think I can prove. It didn't necessarily outline any kind of, factual evidence or anything along those lines. Except there is one part that I want to bring to everyone's attention. And the reason why I want to bring it to everyone's attention is because I think it's very, very important, especially in regards to January 6th and the January 6th committee and January 6th being an insurrection, because Jack Smith's report proves that the media has been, propagandist media, has been lying completely about January 6th and the insurrection. It also brings into question the reality of the 14th Amendment, which, as I've advocated on this program, the 14th Amendment requires that you be tried and convicted under Title 18, U.S. Code, Section 2383. And the reason I say that is because Jack Smith actually points to that in effect. So here, let me show you. So in Jack Smith's report, okay, right here, and I got to find where it is. There it is. Okay, so right here under the subheading of other charges, okay, he points out that there was one other charge, and in his office, he states, the office considered but ultimately opted against bringing other charges. One potential charge was 18 U.S.C. 2383, which is referred and sometimes referred to as the Insurrection Act. We've talked about this extensively on the program, okay? And he goes and he kind of outlines the program. I've got it highlighted here. He outlines the insurrection clause at 2383. And he talks about when it was put in. Section 2383 originated during the Civil War, was part of the Second Confiscation Act of 1862. He kind of goes into a few, talking about like the cases, which, by the way, the cases interpreting Section 2383, he claims, are scarce and arose in context that provided little guidance regarding its potential application in this case. So in other words, what he's saying there is, yeah, I could have charged him with 2383, but I didn't because I really didn't understand or didn't fully comprehend whether or not it was really applicable in this particular case. Well, he goes on and kind of talks a little bit more about it. He also points out that throughout all of the cases, is that it does not appear that any defendant has been charged with violating this statute in more than 100 years, which is true. Nobody has been. Now, he points out that in order to establish a violation of that section, the office would first have had to prove that the violence at the Capitol constituted an insurrection against the authority of the United States or the laws thereof. And then on top of that, he had to prove that Trump incited or assisted the insurrection or gave aid or comfort thereto under 182383. So he goes along and he kind of says, we've had some courts like the Colorado Supreme Court find that, he engaged in an insurrection and blah, blah, blah. He tries to bolster his position here, very weak position. But then he continues to state exactly this. But the courts that did so in cases where there was no criminal charge. So in other words, he's basically stating the fact, and this is a fact, there was no criminal charge under Section 2383. It was all just innuendo, people's opinions. There was no factual court case evidence presented in terms of whether or not any of this occurred based on the definition under 2383. And he goes through and he lists a whole bunch of others. And then he comes down to this statement. These cases, however, did not require the courts to resolve the issue of how to define an insurrection for the purposes for the purposes of Section 2383, or to apply that definition to the conduct of a criminal defendant in the context of January 6th. In other words, what he's saying here is nobody knows how to, the actual definition of this. Now, he continues on and he makes this statement. As to the first element under 2383, proving an insurrection against the authority of the United States or laws thereof, the cases that his office reviewed provided no guidance on what proof would be required to establish an insurrection or distinguish an insurrection from the riot. And he goes on and kind of talks about, different definitions of it, of the word insurrection, but he gets down here to the point, and this is another one. He says, in case law, interpreting insurrection in another context, one particular court has observed that insurrection typically involves overthrowing a sitting government rather than maintaining power. And he admits that this could pose another challenge to proving beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Trump's conduct on January 6th qualified as an insurrection, given that he was the sitting president at the time. There you go. Okay. And then he goes through and he kind of continues on with some of these other cases and so on and so forth. Well, then he moves on to the second element, and this is the key and important point. As to the second element under 2383, there does not appear to have ever been a prosecution under the statute for inciting, assisting, or giving aid or comfort to rebellion or insurrection. The few relevant cases that exist appear to be based on a defendant directly engaged in insurrection or rebellion, but the office's proof did not include evidence that Mr. Trump directly engaged in insurrection himself. So, in other words, what all of this is saying And I'm kind of going through it, but what all of this is saying basically is that Trump didn't engage in it and there was no insurrection. There's no legal definition for insurrection that could have happened. He continues on here and he says, but the office did not develop direct evidence such as an explicit admission or communication with co-conspirators of Mr. Trump's subjective intent to cause the full scope of the violence that occurred on January 6th. So in other words, Trump wasn't involved, period. So then he continues on and it says that his office concluded that pursuing an incitement to the insurrection charge was not necessary. And then he also continued on and says that his office concluded that introducing relatively untested legal theories surrounding Section 2383 would create unwarranted litigation risks. In other words, yeah, there was no insurrection. There's no way to prove it. And there was absolutely nothing that Donald Trump did that would have accounted for charging him with that. So again, there you go. Jack Smith, even Jack Smith, who is notorious for trying legal theories, didn't even want to touch that one. So there you go. Oh, all right, folks. I have been drinking from a fire hose all day. I hope you guys all get together or, get together with your significant others, friends, so on and so forth. And let's make sure that we celebrate the fact that, yes, America is back. America as a republic is back. And that the golden age of America has started today with Donald John Trump sworn in as the 47th president of the United States. That's it for me, folks, for tonight. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. Once you are signed up and signed in, make sure you search for that American Perspective channel to hit that green follow button and get notified every time I go live. Also, too, don't forget to hit those thumbs up buttons and likes across all of my platforms, whether it's X, Rumble, Facebook, and, of course, YouTube. We will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective, to start this all over again, hopefully with even better news. I'm hoping that I'm going to have, fantastic news for you tomorrow. Good night, everybody, and, have a great rest of your evening.
The previous broadcast was produced and is owned by Active Eye Media LLC. All rights reserved.